Sometimes I'll read news stories because, it's one little story added to another little story, added to another little story, makes a big combined story. Today's story is not like that. American Eagle suing Westfield owners for letting San Francisco Mall deteriorate. You might say a single lawsuit? Who cares? I might say that as well, right? Who cares? Don't really give a rip. The issue is all the other companies that are out there that are in crappy malls that the cities have let just basically disintegrate. There's no more people coming in. All of the businesses that are out there are watching this lawsuit because if American Eagle can get out of their lease based on conditions within their lease saying you didn't provide good enough security, you didn't provide business conditions that allow us to run our store safely, you didn't allow public safety to happen in a way where our employees, our managers, and our customers can all come in and not have to worry about being accosted, then we should be able to get out of our lease. That is what the significance of today's podcast is. Let's get into it. Here we go. That was a long intro, but sometimes intros, you got to talk about stuff. You got to chat. You got to talk about crazy stuff going on. Okay, so this is the Westfield Mall. We have talked about the Westfield Mall. It's the mall that the poop elevator is in. 400% increase in poop incidents in the Westfield Mall's elevator because whacked out homeless people are coming in there and they're trying to get up to the restroom and they can't quite make it and they're whacked out on dope and they just number 2 go, right? This is also the mall that the owners of the mall defaulted on their mortgage, give it back to the bank. And Nordstrom just moved out a couple of Sundays ago. Nordstrom said, yeah, it's been a good run, but we can't make a go of it here. We're going to go somewhere to the burbs where, we don't have all these safety issues because you're in such close proximity to the Tenderloin and you got a bunch of whacked out drug addicts running around, sometimes with machetes, right? A retailer in San Francisco's downtown mall, formerly known as the Westfield San Francisco Center, has filed a lawsuit against Westfield's ownership group. Clothing brand American Eagle says there were recently more than 100 security issues within a year time frame, and they blame Westfield management for that. All right, you didn't keep the mall safe. Now, who has the liability? Does the mall have the liability? Or does the city of San Francisco for allowing its streets to just run rampant with shenanigans and drug addiction, human feces, needles, tinfoil now, open air drug markets, human trafficking, stolen goods. It's all on the streets of San Francisco because it's part of that drug ecosystem, right? So is it Westfield Mall or is it City of San Fran? That to me, that's the rub. So AE Retail West, the group that owns American Eagle, and if you don't know what American Eagle is, it's a clothing store. It's kind of more of a young person's clothing store. They got, fashionable stuff. It's, you'll see the kids with their shirts off and, flexing and you get the idea, right? American Eagle has filed a lawsuit against the owners of the mall saying that they are to blame for problems their store has encountered. If it's the confines of the mall and mall management isn't doing their job and they are not providing a safe environment, is there some liability there? I'd have to say, yeah. Damn well management's going to go, it's the city. It's the city. I think American Eagle's endgame here is to say that we want out of our lease. Now, so far, they have not stated that. What they have stated is that they want some financial compensation, but damn well, this is the angle that they're going to go down. All right, we're not going to ask for it, but at the end, instead of, $100 million in restitution or whatever, hey, we just want out of our lease because this lease goes to 2027, 10-year lease signed in 2017, right? The complaint claims that between May of 2022 and May of 2023, there were more than 100 security incidents at the American Eagle downtown San Francisco location. American Eagle employees have suffered multiple physical attacks. That's pretty normal. And assaults. In one instance, a patron even threatened American Eagle staff with a machete. The machete Machete, sword, knives, rocks, you name it. Rebar. Rebar is a tool. I should have a running list that the homeless use as weapons. I mean, think Mad Max, right? Think Mad Max. Any of those weapons? You betcha. The homeless have them and they use them because it's such a violent environment when everybody's whacked out on drugs and stealing from each other, right? So why wouldn't they go, take a machete and threaten somebody, some poor worker, making $14 an hour or whatever they're making? You're like, I'm going to end your life with a machete. Clark says this case has huge implications for other major cities. This would set a precedent of, oh, yeah, wow, that's not good. Mall management, be on your toes, right? If American Eagle is allowed out of its lease based on the crime, the violence, the shoplifting, we haven't even talked about shoplifting, right? Hey, you're letting a bunch of people come in and just rob us blind. What's up with that, mall management? Yeah, it does raise a legit question, right? The shoplifting, the violence, and the other problems at the mall. I think you'll see a lot of other retailers looking at this as a tool to say, we want out as well. We want out as well, says Clark. This is a mess. This is a mess. And this is what happens when you allow society to decompose like this. You've created all these perfect situations where these criminals, these drug addicts, we don't have a housing problem. We got a massive drug addiction problem. San Francisco has a massive drug addiction problem and they know it. And they're doing some things to try and clean it up. But this problem is such a big encompassing issue that you're not going to be able to fix it quickly. And without involuntarily putting people in either a mental institution or throwing them in jail or putting them in treatment, it's a very fluid situation. You're not gonna be able to fix this bad boy overnight, right? Reporter Laura Waxman was first to break the news of the lawsuit in the San Francisco Business Times. This lawsuit is interesting because now we have a retailer inside of Westfield, one of the big remaining ones, saying big remaining, meaning over half of the businesses have left the Westfield Mall. And that's why, revenue is so down, and its ownership said, yep, no thanks. Here's the keys, Mr. and Mrs. Lender. You take over this bad boy and good luck with that, right? Saying, hey, wait a minute. You guys didn't take care of some of the issues inside of the mall when you could have. So now we're placing liability on mall management. Yeah. Interesting. So do you think you're going to have businesses in other malls band together, do a class action suit, something along those lines, and gang up on mall management? Absolutely. Because if you're in a crappy mall and you want to get out, here's your key, here's your ticket, opening that lock, right? This is how you do it if you've got precedent. Hey, remember that Westfield Mall? I do. Yeah. Well, we're doing the same thing. The complaint against Westfield must be held accountable for the damages caused by its failures and broken promises. You got a lease is a promise, right? It's a promise. You give us this amount of money, we'll give you this for your space. We'll give you this space. We'll give you this ability for you to do your business within this space. Did they break that? We'll find out, right? We'll find out. But the mall management it's literally going to pass that right along to the city of San Francisco and say, it's their fault. It's their fault. Going on to say that Westfield failed to maintain common areas of the mall like they were obligated to do in their 10-year lease that was signed in 2017, calling it a breach of contract. While there is no mention of wanting to break the lease, Clark believes it could come to that. Absolutely. That's more than likely what they want, right? Because they're in a loser of a mall. I mean, when the owner of the mall gives up the mall to the lender, you're basically saying, hey, come get this bad boy. They're doing essentially a deed in lieu of foreclosure. I don't know if that's what they did in commercial terms, but they're really walking away from it. They're saying, hey, we don't want this. This is a total loser. And the businesses that are left in there, they're stuck with these long-term leases, and they're like, all right, what do we do? Well, American Eagle they're willing to roll the dice and say, hey, let's see what happens with the lawsuit. Certainly American Eagle doesn't want to be the last retail tenant at the mall. That could be a disaster financially. I think it's already a disaster financially for most of these stores. And that's why somebody's, trying to do something. So I think because Nordstrom left and others have left, I think that's what American Eagle is saying. We don't want to wait until 2028 to leave. We want to leave now, says Clark. So up until this, we've basically had businesses leaving and just kind of quietly going into the night. Every now and then they'll say street conditions were terrible. So many things run through my mind that just support this lawsuit. So many. How about Whole Foods? 568 911 calls. I mean, if that doesn't scream out street conditions, city of San Fran, you've basically, given up the city. I don't know what does, right? Within the complaint, there is a request for monetary compensation for American Eagle, but no specific number was given. We did reach out to American Eagle representatives, yada, yada. They won't be commenting. They also reached out to Westfield representatives who said, we're not commenting because we haven't been served yet. So this suit has apparently been filed. This reporter found it. She reported on it. And here we go. So this is going to be an interesting one to watch. I mean, is there liability? I mean, you got 100 instances. It's not like you're just saying, well, some people give us angry looks and sometimes they yell at us. And you got 100 instances of crazy stuff going on. And that has been the reason that people are no longer willing to go to this mall. It's not safe. I mean, who wants to get on the elevator and have human excrement there? And it used to be that happened just every now and then. And then it was happening multiple times a week. Literally a 400% increase in human poop incidences in the elevator of this mall. If that doesn't tell you kind of what's going on, then I can't tell you in more clear terms what's going on. And safety issues. So you're not only talking just people not wanting to shop there, people not wanting to work there, people not wanting to be managers there, people not wanting to be security guards there. In some of these instances, we talk about folks referring to this as the Wild West. When somebody comes in with a machete, the only thing that beats a machete, I believe, is a samurai sword because it's longer and, it's got that arcing thing. I mean, these stories are they're not reasonable, are they? This is ridiculous. This should not be happening. And yet it is. It is. So how did we get here? How did San Francisco get here? Well, they decriminalized, a bunch of drugs, and they said you could just live willy-nilly wherever you want, in whatever tent you want. And they handed out a whole bunch of tents, and they don't really prosecute criminals, and got a district attorney that doesn't prosecute much of anything. And you've taken the ability of the cops to arrest people away. They're not really able to do their job. And so you just let this fester. And now you've got a mayor in San Francisco saying, hey, we got to crack down. And they are cracking down on some of the open air drug use. But like American Eagle here, they're a day late, dollar short, right? You got some big conventions going on. You got a big convention you got Dreamforce going on, which is Salesforce, big convention going on right now. So the city of San Francisco has been trying to clean up for that. I was reading a news story. Our Governor Inslee here in the state of Washington, he's proclaiming that, a lot of action's been done on the homeless encampments. I would have to say no, it's been a bunch of lateral moves. You've swept somebody up, whack-a-mole. They go just a couple of blocks down the road, set up a new encampment. I'm watching that happen on the daily here in the state of Washington. But our governor, he needs to be able to spin some PR. And so there was a story about that. The governor came and he looked at our South Myers Way encampment. That is the encampment that had the swimming pool. and it had nightly shootings with the senior center across the street. If you remember some of those podcasts I did on that, Jeremy Harris covered a bunch of that of Como. But so Inslee is now telling us that things are getting better. We're getting people in treatment. And, got some stuff going on. All right, he's a politician. He's got to do that. That's his job. He's got to do the positive spin so that his constituents can say, "Hey, don't look at the streets. Listen to what the governor is saying, and we believe that because we're going to go with that because that sounds better than God looking at the 25 acres of South Myers Way and understanding what an environmental disaster that encampment has been to clean up." I mean, a picture I saw today, Jeremy Harris, was a boat. There's a boat in the encampment. Somebody brought a boat in and stripped it. I mean, what do you got going on there? It's just, just some craziness. But getting back to, why this is important was I saw Brandy Cruz put a little comment on one of these stories, and she said, "Hey, just have a monthly all-star game come into Seattle and we'll clean her right up." And that's literally what's happened is you get these big events, and San Francisco's no different. Got to clean it up. We got this coming to town. Well, meantime, companies that have been there for a long time, like American Eagle, are like, yeah, we don't want to be here long-term. You might do the whack-a-mole game and clear out a little bit. You might come in and make 400 or 500 arrests on fentanyl dealers, but we've already suffered massive losses. They don't want to be there. They don't want to be in the Westfield Mall. Westfield Mall is the kiss of death. One of the prime examples of that, and in real estate, we call it a direct comparable sale, is when a home sells and then a home sells down the road and it's in the same exact condition, but it sells for either higher or lower. That's a direct comparison of what market conditions are doing. Because then you can extrapolate, all right, the market's either going down or it's going up, or you've got an identical home. You've got the subject property. You've got a comparable sale. It's very similar to the subject. You can extrapolate what the subject's value is from that comparable sale. Well, in Westfield Mall, you've got less than half of the stores that are there. You got lawsuits going on. Management is basically just giving up the keys to the lender. Westfield Mall operates, I think it's in San Jose. It's one of their other malls. And it's just, it's absolutely kicking ass. The numbers are, they've got 95% of the traffic that they had pre-pandemic. And so there are cases of, well, this mall is in Tenderloin, San Francisco. This mall is outside. Here's what this mall outside is doing. City of San Francisco has allowed their streets to just deteriorate to the point that they have. I'm not saying San Jose or whatever city it is that owns the other Westfield Mall is, without homelessness or whatever, but its street conditions are such that their mall traffic, people are willing to go to the mall. They're not willing to go to the mall in the Tenderloin area because you might get killed by a dude swinging a machete that's on meth, fentanyl, trank dope. That's a new one. I saw Ben Shapiro mentioning trank dope the other day, xylazine. I've been talking about that for probably, 6 months, 9 months. If you really cared, you could go back to that first podcast somewhere here on this channel and say, here's where Sean started talking about it. I've been following that issue, in Philadelphia for a long, long time. Apparently it just came across Ben Shapiro's desk and he's now reporting on it saying, hey, there's a new drug that's out there. So I found that kind of interesting that it's now actually, and I said 6 months or whenever it was, you're going to start to hear about this in social media, and the mainstream media is going to catch wind of this because the new drug, xylazine, which is basically a horse tranquilizer, it causes people to lose limbs because it basically destroys the skin. And if you don't get the condition taken care of, it gets worse, and then people lose limbs. They lose hands, they lose feet, they lose legs, they lose arms, because that's what happens when you're not a large animal and you're using it to just, basically get super high. And that's where it leaves you. So, that storyline is out there as well. And you've just got, just this craziness going on in San Francisco, and the cat's out of the bag. They can't, they can't make it disappear, but they're trying to. Outside one of my podcasts the other day was the Nancy Pelosi Federal Building in San Francisco. They've basically got it just all fenced off, and they got 10 federal police cars across the street. They're just trying to make the federal building look, a little bit safer. It looks like a prison, especially with the fencing outside of it. Just like, okay, are they keeping the animals in or out? Well, there's no animals in it because the city of San Francisco basically told all their federal workers, the federal government told the federal workers in the federal building, hey, why don't you guys work from home? Because, it's not safe to come to our building in San Francisco. That's what they're dealing with, right? So is there liability for street conditions? Is there liability for mall conditions? I think so. I think so. Being able to prove those in a court of law, we'll find out, right? We'll see. Make sure you tune in the future. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit the like button for this video, because that way when I talk about this again, which I will, I'll give you an update here. I always do on these storylines, right? Thanks again for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.